I am been busy, and I'm not complaining. Today is day 8 of going live for 20 days, but all February, which is made up of 28 days. But because I'm only going live on Monday through Friday. Today is day 8, Wednesday. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a long day. Your girl is sleepy. But that's not what I came here for. I didn't come here to complain. I came here to talk to you. And today's topic, before we get into today's topic, for anybody who's joining me, I am Samela. And this is 28 days of an awakening. So collectively, we're working to become more aligned with kingdom intelligence. And the reason why I committed to doing this 28-day challenge is because God had been downloading so much information to me all 2026, showing me myself, mirror moments, correcting me, enlightening me, reposturing me, redirecting my focus, all 2025. And so, because there's so much juice and oil in this stuff that He's been teaching me, I've been committed to sharing what I've learned because we all need to get off autopilot. Autopilot is doing the same thing, the same way, living a predictable life. And the reason why we absolutely have to get off autopilot is because we were born for a reason. We were born for a season. And if you are still alive today, God still has use of you. And so I just believe that if we become more aligned with kingdom intelligence, we will begin to go after our inheritance and start living like a trust fund baby. And so people ask me, what's kingdom intelligence? It's actually made up of spiritual intelligence, entrepreneurial intelligence, and artificial intelligence. And so I don't consider myself a coach for a spiritual coach or a business coach or AI coach. I consider myself I guess like a C-suite coach because that's pretty much what it makes up. C is in the ocean, C-suite, to make it kingdom intelligence. But kingdom intelligence is being able to sit with God long enough to start looking like Him, showing up like Him, building like Him, doing the things like Him. And I'm crazy enough to believe that if you become more aligned, hello, Jesse, if you become more aligned with kingdom intelligence, you are going to be like, is this my real life? And you're going to start asking yourself this question: what if it all works out? Hey, everybody. So today we are talking about the fork in the road, the difference between growth and grief, grief and growth. And I think it's really important because it's vital to this idea around, is this a Christian thing? Actually, it's like Christian living, but it's not just like biblical. It's posture, it's mindset, skill set, tool set. So, but yeah, I talk about God. Absolutely. God is the number one source of everything I know how to do. But it's literally life hacks that God has given me. And now I'm just like, I need to tell more people because why didn't we know this before? And so, again, the topic is the fork in the road, grief versus growth and what that looks like. But it's so important to be able to discern the difference because they both look alike. If you don't take a deep look at growth versus grief, you think that you grieving something, but you might just be growing, right? You might just be getting stretched. They both feel away. So we're going to just break it down. Grief pulls you backwards. Yes. Grief pulls you backwards to what was, right? Like This is how it used to be back in our day. I don't get it. The difference between grief and growth. We're going to talk about both of them because most of the time we think that we're grieving something like, I'm so sad. I wish you used to be like this. And I'm not talking about grief as in losing a family member. I'm saying grieving something that used to be your old self, right? I told a client of mine, in order for you to access your new life and your best life, the one that you have not experienced, but you know deep down inside that you want, you have to allow a version of your old self to die. I used to do this. I used to be like this. Things used to be easier. It used to be right. Like that is the grief that I'm talking about. And most of the time, people think that when things are not as they used to be, they are grieving. But what if you're growing? What if you're actually seeing a shift in your mind? And I'm going to point out how they all look alike. They're going to show, let's just break it down, how they all look alike, right? Learning to identify these sources and the purpose of the emotional pain during a transition. So say you are at a place in your life where you're like, 2026 is about to be my year. I'm about to kill it. I'm about to do all these things that I said I wanted to do. And you're like, okay, cool. You need to understand because grief feels heavy and it feels like resistance. Every time you make a step, it seems like you're taking two steps back. You're looking backwards. People are calling you backwards. Well, you used to do this in your past life. Well, guess what? I'm not that person anymore. So that's what grief feels like. You're going backwards, you're being pulled backwards, and it feels heavy, as if there is a barrier. It's like you're clinging to the past, while growth feels tender and it exposes you to something new and it pushes you forward into the future out of your comfort zone, right? And if we mislabel these things while we're transitioning, we will stop moving. We will stop doing the work. We will stop processing because some of us think that we're grieving, but we're actually really growing. And the reason why you feel stuck, and I know for a fact I felt stuck for many years, is because I was mislabeling the discomfort. Both of them are discomfort, just to be clear. To grow is uncomfortable. To grieve, it's uncomfortable. Um, but as I mentioned to you before, grief pulls you backwards, growth pushes you forward, and they feel identical. So let me just break it down. Both of them, grief and growth, again, feels uncomfortable, disrupts your daily routine and the way that you're used to doing things and how things usually go. They require letting go. You have to let go of who you used to be to become who you're trying to be, to access that wealth, to access that new relationship, to access that new partnership or business or company or job, right? And they both make you question yourself like, am I doing this right? And this is why we oftentimes feel confused in distinguishing the two. Grief feels heavy, nostalgic, wanting to go backwards because it's like the devil that you know already, right? Like, I don't feel like doing this. I'm just going to go back to that old job because they tripping at this new job type of thing. It resists the reality. It makes you stop seeing what's really happening and start thinking about what used to happen. I ain't have to do this. My old job, they ain't make me do this. You know, when I was going to get this loan, they didn't make me do this. You know, I'm just saying random things, but I'm sure you can understand where I'm going with this. Whereas growth feels like you're being stretched. But it feels like you're breaking, right? When you're being stretched, it feels like you're breaking, just like a rubber band. The rubber band goes really far until it can't go anymore. It feels like exposure. Like, wait, I don't know that. You go to places, you go to new networking events, and they ask you stuff, and you feel like you should know it, but you don't know it. And so now you're questioning yourself, like, what's happening? Growth requires shedding your old self-belief, shedding what you used to think is the way to do it. And it is a level of being discomfortable with comfort. So I tell people all the time, in order to be great, You absolutely have to be comfortable and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because if you knew what greatness felt like, you would have already been it. And we are great at a level, but when we're trying to grow to a new level, we got to be great at another level, and at another level, and at another level. So, um, one says, I want that, I wish that that was still that way. I wish things were still that way. I mean, back in our day, it used to happen like this. And oftentimes we hear our parents say stuff like that. Well, back in our day, we used to, well, ma'am, sir, mom, dad, uncle, we're not back in your days. We're in these days right here. It used to be easier to get a job, but now we're in these days. So if we keep saying all of the way back then things, we're still grieving what was. And then the other says, I can't go back. I'm not going back there. Life was too hard. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not moving back in with my parents. I am not moving back to Chicago. I am not about to do this. I'm not going back to that relationship. I refuse to go back to that job, right? That's how you know you're growing, because you're like, I cannot go backwards. I'm not going backwards. I can't do it. In the blind spots that we have to be careful to look out for, and most people avoid growth because they're afraid of grief. We often feel foolish, we feel like we're behind the eight ball at networking events. Why everybody else know this? They raising money, they're doing these things. How they know this? We feel like we're facing failure, and confronting these blind spots is required when you are growing. Because if you don't know what you don't know, how you ever gonna learn what you don't know? That sounds crazy, right? If you do not know, meaning aware of what you do not know, meaning lack of knowledge or a level of ignorance, how are you ever going to learn it? Because you think you know it, or you didn't even know that that existed. You didn't know that people do things like that, or that was an option. And so then you're like, oh, and that is growth. That is a sign of growth. But most of the time, people end up switching lanes because they think that they are grieving when they're actually growing. You got to grow through it, and go through it. They begin to rebrand. Well, maybe I should do this, and maybe I should change my business. They begin to start all over. But most people live the same life year after year after year because they refuse to face growth head on, because they're grieving their old self and thinking, well, I must don't know what I'm doing then. I must don't know this. When in fact, you're right. You don't know what you're doing, but you can grow to learn what you're doing. One expands us while the other exposes us, right? So exposure happens when visibility outpaces your capacity. What does that mean? Say you go viral online and you're like, I just went viral and now I got to keep giving them something. But then really you don't have anything to give them because you didn't practice, you didn't grow, you wasn't putting points on the board, you didn't master the skill that's required to keep that level of visibility. And so that's when it outpaces itself, right? When money outpaces maturity, you can make all the money, and it's one thing to get it, but it's another thing to keep it, right? Because if you get the job that's paying you this great salary, you're like, oh my God, I got this new lifestyle, I'm gonna do this. But if you don't have the maturity to steward the money, you will still be living paycheck to paycheck because you didn't do the lesson. You didn't allow yourself to grow financially. You didn't allow yourself to grow into that lifestyle of being responsible. I want a G-Wagon, right? I want a G-Wagon. But in my current life right now, I just cannot afford a G-Wagon, not only from a car note. I can't afford it if something happened with the maintenance. I can't afford it because I'm not going to be looking for no park, right? But if I went and got a G-Wagon, I could get it. You can get it the first time, but are they coming back to get this car? Because I didn't let myself grow into being the type of person who could actually have a G Wagon and have that lifestyle. And expansion, when you expand and build, you got to go deep, deep in knowledge, deep in understanding, deep in yourself. Why do I show up this way? Why am I doing this? You have to have integrity, right? Because I want a G Wagon and I can't afford it right now, I got to start asking myself, what type of work do you need to be doing to afford a G Wagon? And I'm not talking about a sugar daddy. I'm not talking about cutting corners. I'm not talking about doing things that lack integrity just to say I got a G Wagon. No, I'm saying becoming the person who can make enough money to where a G Wagon is part of my lifestyle and not just, remember I used to drive that G Wagon? Yeah, but what happened? I couldn't keep it because I outpaced the process without growing to become the person to move with the integrity. And a lot of this requires emotional regulation and being aware that your time will never pass you by. If it's meant for you and you continue to grow through it, meaning become your best self, yes, a lesson is hard, but what could you learn from this? And then you move to the next lesson. And then once you start pattern recognizing, like, okay, you tripped over this job last time. You got the job, you loved it, the paycheck was awesome, but you wasn't able to show up at work on time. And then when they expected something of you, there was always an excuse. Okay, fine. They fired you. No problem. Now you get this other job because you're learning it. You should not continue to trip over the same exact thing that took you down last time. So one of the ways that you can understand this is if you are having to face new lessons, because anybody at any level, regardless of their bank account, regardless of their access, have challenges that they have to overcome day to day. So that's never going to go away for anybody. But how you know you're growing versus grieving, grieving is still dealing with the same thing year in, year out, year in, year out. If I promised myself for many years, I told myself I was going to lose weight. You got to get healthy. You got to get in the gym. You got to eat better. You got to do this. And every year, for several years, I lied to myself. And I'm like, I'm going to do it next year. I'm going to do it next year. I'm going to do it next year. And then when I finally said, actually, I'm tired of lying to me, I'm getting in the gym. And then I started working on myself. And then now suddenly I'm like, oh, I just did this. What else can I do? What else can I accomplish? What else can I, right? And so you know you're growing if the challenges that you're facing are different than the challenges you used to face. So I don't have a problem with focusing on my health anymore because I grew past that, right? Now my challenge is being this entrepreneur who can raise this money. This is a new challenge because you're always going to have challenges. But if you continually face the same exact challenge from last year, the year before, that your parents face, that your sister faced, you are grieving something. Something is not connecting and you're still focused on the past and what used to be versus growing through it. Hopefully this is making sense. Is this making sense? Perfect. Thank you. And as an entrepreneur, it's important to understand that you have to grow through it because you're never going to have it perfect. It's never going to be the perfect time, but you have to make it the perfect time, right? Because you continue to grow, because you continue to move forward. And some of us didn't fail, we just scaled prematurely. We got the money too fast and couldn't keep it. We got the G-Wagon too fast and they have to repo it, right? Like we got the yes too fast and now we're failing at the job. So, and then now it's like you beat yourself up because you grew too fast. I'm sorry, you moved too fast, but you didn't grow through it. You didn't grow through it. So premature growth without structure is actually gonna have you looking like you're not the person who you say you are. You're not the person who you want to be, and then you start feeling defeated, and that's not what we want. We don't want that for you. And so it's very important for you to understand that you're not late at all. If you're still alive and you're watching this live, that means that you still have something that you can offer in today's world, but you must be willing to grow through it because what you want is on the other side of you learning to do it. The top celebrities who are sports players, they didn't become the great at being a sports player by luck. By saying, well, when I was in high school, they didn't make me do this. Yeah, but you're not in high school anymore, right? When I had this small business, I didn't have to do this. That's not what's happening. So if you are constantly comparing what needs to happen to change your circumstances, you're probably grieving. And it's okay to grieve, but you have to be aware of it, because if you understand that you're still grieving this still has you in a chokehold, this still hurts your feelings, this is still residue from your trauma, you can move with it differently and you don't shame yourself through it. But in order for you to become the person that you want to be and that you're working to become, you have to grow through it. Go through it and grow through it. There's no shortcuts to greatness. There's no shortcuts to becoming wealthy. You have to become the person who could not just get it, but keep it. And if you're still alive, you didn't miss your moment, babe. I'm here to tell you. You did not miss your moment. There's still so much purpose inside of you. Grief says you lost it, but growth says you're becoming it. I believe in you because transformation takes trust. You have to trust that you can become the person to do the thing. You have to trust the process. You have to trust that I might not know what needs to be done, but I'm willing to learn it. And trust travels. When you begin to trust yourself, you get to trust yourself by going to the gym. You're like, oh my God, I'm actually going to the gym. I'm actually losing weight. That same trust will be like, oh my goodness, I can do this job. Of course, I'm going to apply for this job that I've never done, because when I get in there, I'm going to learn and figure it out. That's trust traveling to different portions of your life because you trust that you will figure it out, because you're going to grow through it. I believe in you. I believe in everything that you have going on. And I know for a fact that if you tapped into this, watching this, whenever you come across it, you are ready to grow. And it's okay to grieve through it. But the beauty is understanding, are you grieving or are you growing? And in order to grow, you have to grieve. But to grieve is to put it to rest. Release it. Let it go. That don't mean it's not near and dear to your heart. That don't mean those moments didn't matter. That means that those moments back then do not determine your moments right now. That's a bar in itself. Ooh. So keep growing, keep glowing, and keep going. I believe in you. Be great. You got this. See you tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. And what are we talking about tomorrow? Tomorrow we're moving from trauma to discernment. We're moving from trauma of this hurts, why this, I'm the victim, to the victor, and being able to peep game and see what's happening, look at patterns, and make more informed decisions and move more intentionally. Be great in the meantime and in between time. And then if you have questions that you want us to talk about, On Friday, I do an AMA, and so you could drop your questions in the chat below, and I can address them on Friday. Talk to you later. Bye.